I'm here with Dominic Dyer from Care from the Wild and Born Free. So Dominic, can you tell me what you're doing here today at LionAid?
Well, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I really welcome what LionAid have done today to really bring to the attention of people here in London the threat that lions now face in Africa. We've got less than 15,000 left in the wild, down from around 80,000 in 1980. And I think all of us, because of the issue around Cecil and the global anger about the killing of that lion, are becoming more aware than ever before about the threat that this wonderful animal is under.
Yeah, I mean, Cecil was really a controversial issue. I think people are trying to understand what was illegal about the whole thing. Can you explain to the people at home what was the issue with Cecil and why it came to the news?
Well, I think people were probably shocked that many African countries issue permits for having lions and other endangered species like rhinos and African elephants to be hunted, for example. But it is widespread. Tanzania, South Africa, Botswana, all these countries allow it. Thousands of hunters come in every year and they do kill large numbers of animals using bows and guns. All that actually happened with Cecil is that the individual that had a license to kill a lion actually broke the law by actually taking a lion from a national reserve that was collared for a research project. But the killing of lions goes on in Africa day in, day out.
And some of the lions, some of the price that you can actually pay to kill the lions has dropped significantly. Some people can actually kill a lion for not a lot of money these days.
Yes, you know, if you look at the whole industry, and it is an industry, the trophy hunting industry, there is a way of killing lions in places like Tanzania which are extremely expensive. You'll go out for a safari tracking a lion maybe for 2 weeks, pay around $80,000 and have a 1 in 3 chance of killing it. Most people could never afford to do that. But what's happened in South Africa in particular is they've gone into bargain basement hunting territory. They've realized there's a market as more people become affluent in places like Korea, China, the United States and Europe, traditional hunting markets. They can bring more people in if they can drive the price down. So they farm lions. They breed them in intensive systems, probably over 6,000 of these animals now. And yes, you can kill a female lion in one of those can hunting operations for around $10,000, a fraction of the wild lion being shot in Tanzania.
And these lions are raised by tourists and are tame, so it's not only you're breaking their trust, it's horrific. And I just honestly think that the public don't know about this. What do you think the politicians in England could do more to get the message out there about this awful practice?
Well, it's exploitation of wildlife, and South Africa and Zimbabwe and other countries across the African continent are cashing in on their natural resources. But we are to blame here in Western Europe, North America and other countries. We are the ones that are going to Africa, using our money to kill these animals. If we didn't do it, then the farms wouldn't exist. So we've really got to question the ethics of this type of hunting. There's also the sustainability and the ecological impact as well. These farms are creating an intensive system of production of animals, but it is having an impact on wild lions. A lot of the lion farmers would say by allowing people to come and kill them this way, we're protecting them in the wild. And the South African government sympathizes with that position. But the reality is that the carcasses of the lions, which the hunters don't want, they want the heads and the skins to take home with them, contains bone. And lion bone is then sold by the farms for around $1,000 a carcass into Laos, into Thailand, into Vietnam, where it's ground up for soup and medicinal products, for example, potions, all of which don't have any benefit to health, but people believe it will.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a real danger because the demand grows and then people will poach wild lions to meet that market demand for bone as well.
So if this carries on, how long before the lion could actually possibly go extinct?
I think lions are at the verge of extinction now. We might not be able to stop the loss in large parts of Africa. It's probably too late. But what we are beginning to see is at least global recognition and anger waking up to the reality that we face. You know, people like LionAid and Born Free and other charities have been speaking for years about this, but often governments have stuck their head in the sand. And we still face a challenge here in Britain today as well. Rory Stewart, the Defra Minister, responsible for this area of environmental protection in Africa, is still singing from the same hymn sheet as certain NGOs in the environment conservation area that say actually trophy hunting has a role to play. It has a role to play in conservation and has a role to play in protecting communities and bringing in incomes. We know that's not the case.
No.
Over the whole of Africa, trophy hunting probably brings in about $200 to $300 million. In Kenya alone, wildlife tourism brings in $1 billion. So you can do your sums. You can shoot an animal once and it's gone.
Yes.
With a gun or a bow. You can shoot it tens of thousands of times with a camera and generate millions of dollars of income in its lifetime. This is a no-brainer, really.
I don't know how they can say it's helping conservation, because if numbers are plummeting, you would think that there would be absolutely no reason to be shooting any animals, regardless of what age they are or whether it helps the pack. In England, you see a lot of people, they cull deers and you know, with vast amounts of animals. But the lions, they are plummeting. And, you know, I just feel, is this just another excuse for rich people to go out and shoot a lion?
There's two elements to trophy hunting. One is the cruelty and the ethics issue, and we can debate that. The other issue, though, is corruption. It breeds corruption. Because what happens is the licenses are a way of gaining lucrative income. The safari companies that bring the hunters in are open to corruption. That's what we found when Mr. Palmer comes in to Zimbabwe, a country which has a broken economy, a broken political system where corruption is rife, and he's able to bend the rules to kill a lion that he knows he should never have been able to kill. And that's just one example. Across Africa, that sort of corruption is going on day in, day out. So even if you have a licensing system, it's open to abuse. Even if you have controls in national parks, people can still kill animals that you shouldn't be killing. That's why we're saying to the international community, you must stop killing lions now.
Do you think much that the death of Cecil was incredibly tragic? Do you think it's going to have a benefit on the conservation of lions in general in the future?
It will if we don't give up on the fight, because you had that global reaction. You know, I was sitting there in television studios and radio studios, and people were angry, and it was a global story of immense proportions and probably the most important conservation story in many ways for decades. But it's no good if we all go back to sleep and forget about the reality of what's going on. This is not about Mr. Palmer getting extradited or getting put into prison in Zimbabwe or America. To be honest, that debate will go on.
Yes.
What bothers me now is as to where we can capitalize on the anger. We can have a significant step in the United States to restrict imports of trophies. We can have a similar measure in Europe to do the same. We can look at this lion bone issue for what it is and bring that back to CITES and to Africa next year and say to the South African government, you can't farm lions and allow the trade in lion bone. You're going to destroy what's left of the world's lions, and actually you're putting at risk the world's tigers as well, because you're mixing that bone trade together.
And also I find it's people get behind a singular topic. So you have Cecil, who's one lion. You have Walter Palmer, who is now taking the flak for pretty much all the hunters that go to Africa every single day. That's human nature. Humans respond to that. I think it's interesting to actually talk about the amount of lions that have probably been killed since Cecil has died that haven't made the press. So approximately how many other lions do you think might have been shot since then?
Hundreds of lions will have been
but
killed
But
across
none of these will
Africa.
be in the newspapers.
No, they won't be, and they won't have names attached to them.
No.
And they won't be necessarily part of Oxford research type projects that Cecil was. But let's just take advantage of the Cecil story. It was a lion that was recognised, lots of good footage available, so people were filming it and could show the world this beautiful animal. It was connected to a well-established research project at Oxford University, and it was a tragic loss of one animal. But it's not just about one animal, it's not just about one species, it's about our whole connection with the wild environment around the world, at home here in Britain and around the planet. It's about greed, corruption and cruelty, and it's about the future of endangered species. We've got to now get to a point where we say you should no longer be able to kill the most endangered species in this planet because you've got enough money in your wallet to do it. That is fundamentally wrong, and it must stop.
Yeah. Do you think America might make some big changes when it comes to people being allowed to hunt in other countries?
There are massive issues in the United States pushing against it. The National Rifle Association has significant political influence, not least in the Republican Party. A number of the contenders for the presidency will support the continuation of trophy hunting, not least Donald Trump, who's ahead of the pack at the moment, whose sons are doing this in Africa, who will support it 100%. These are real issues that you have to get to grips with in the American political system. But equally in Europe too, there are strong hunting interests in places like Germany and Spain. And as I said earlier, even in the UK government is influenced by that. And I'm afraid, let's be clear, the WWF's position, in my view, on trophy hunting is no longer sustainable. It should change. I hope that more and more people will say to this organisation, you do great work around the world, but you've got to change your policy on this. If that comes about as a result of Cecil, that will be a good move.
I really, really hope that the death of Cecil will actually do some good in the world and the momentum carries on. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Not at all. Thank you.